Here we go. It's another edition of the Sports Rush Live. How are you on this holiday weekend? Everybody get enough time off and you're ready to go back to work? Did you get enough snow? Did you enjoy dealing with the snow? Did you shovel? Did you snow blow? Did you call somebody to help you out? It was a mess up here in Fort Wayne, and I was down in Indianapolis. But the one time I had to hit the roads in Indianapolis was the one time it got really bad down in Indianapolis. And so I had to deal with bad roads last night. Wasn't able to make it back from Lucas Oil Stadium last night. Those that did try to brave it or were forced to brave it, I understand it was not a fun drive home. About 4 hours on the highway between Indianapolis and Fort Wayne to get back from the Bishop Dwenger State Championship game yesterday. But man, what a football game. We'll talk more about that. We've got to talk about the Colts and what happened today with the Indianapolis Colts. And it's not pretty right now for the Indianapolis Colts. They've got a lot of things that have been exposed and a lot of things they're going to have to turn around. They've got to go back and get their mojo back. They lost it. And I don't know where it's gone, but that offense, three straight 3-and-outs, I think, to start the game. There's an offense that scored at will over the first 4 or 5 games of the season. And now all of a sudden they're struggling to figure out how to even move the chains. And Rigoberto Sanchez, a guy that barely got used in the first few weeks, is now becoming the Colts MVP because he's out there more than almost anybody else. They've got to get this figured out. And today they didn't get any help from the guys in the black and white stripes. And we'll talk about that as well. Basketball, it's getting into full swing. We start our high school basketball coverage this Friday. There's a lot going on. And whenever there's a lot going on, you know, I always need help talking about it. And so let's go ahead and bring in Adam Lundy, who's joining us, as he does almost each and every week on this show. And Adam, it's been a pretty eventful holiday weekend as far as sports. It doesn't matter if you're a college basketball fan, if you're an NFL fan, an NBA fan, NHL, the ECHL. Comets are playing the Toledo Walleye right now. Comets just took a 2-1 lead for those of you that care. But a lot going on. And of course, now we're counting down to the conference championship games for college football. Who's going to be those final 12 selections from the College Football Playoff Committee? Great time of year.
No question about it. Good to be here with you. My connection mightn't be a little bad, so you'll have to let me know if I'm coming through okay.
Hopefully it's not mine. But got Ryan weighing in. He sat inside, watched it snow. That's probably the safest and best thing to do. Also, Ryan talking about the Colts, saying their offense has disappeared. It's out of sync right now, and it shouldn't be because they've got all the important players on the field. But we'll talk a little bit about the Indianapolis Colts here in a moment. But you braved the snowstorm by going to the studio and producing high school football yesterday. What drama we had down in Indianapolis.
Man, that was a fantastic game. Some fantastic play calling from the head coach of Bishop Dwenger throughout the game, but especially late. And we saw a fake field goal be the difference there for Lucas Nguyen to get the touchdown for Bishop Dwenger that proved to be the winning score, man. And with just a back and forth game throughout the entire game. Nobody was ever too far away from the other team. So, yeah, really, really treat. What a post-Thanksgiving treat there.
There was something very appropriate with the pronunciation guide because his name, a little bit tricky, Nguyen, but it's pronounced quite simply win. And that's basically what he did. He went out and won the game. I couldn't figure out how to use win the game. He win the game for the for the Bishop Dwenger Saints, but his fake field goal where he rolled out, and it's almost like running an RPO for your kicker. You know, it's like he's running, and he has the option that if the block is being set, that he can continue to run for the first down. But the defender, and it was basically a 2-on-1. Wynn rolled out to the left. AJ Shefferly ran a out route about 10 yards downfield. He was blocking downfield, but the one defender between the two offensive players decided to get off the block and head for Wynn. And at that time, Lucas Wynn just tossed a little lob pass over the defender to AJ Shefferly, who caught it, took off. You had about 3, 4 defenders flying at an angle to try to take him out. First one hit him, I think, around the 10, 12-yard line, and he bounced right off him. And then he just basically was determined to get through a couple of arm tackles inside the 5, and he took it into the end zone for the touchdown that ultimately proved to be the winning points, but that was not without a lot of drama late. It went all the way down to the final play with 1 second on the clock, the ball at the 5 yard line, and Roncalli with a chance to tie or maybe win the game or maybe lose the game. I wonder what Roncalli would have done if they'd have scored on the final play of the football game, and you could go for 2 to win a state championship or kick an extra point and play overtime. What would they have done?
Ooh, that is that I have no
Most
idea.
coaches will
I
tell
would
you they're
go
going
for
for
it,
it,
but
Adam.
that's gambling.
Most coaches will
Yeah,
tell you
I
we're
was gonna
going
say
for the
I would
win.
have to go for it.
I mean, you're that close to a state championship. Run a play and let your guys either win it or lose it, rather than take the chance on coin flips and everything else. Just go and lay it out on the line and go for it. It'd have been very interesting if it had come to that. We've got Mr. Vegas. Appreciate that. Mr. Vegas said, great call. You and Coach Griff listened to it. Back and forth. What a game. Yeah, it was. It was, I mean, that game had so many lead changes. Nobody could extend a multiple score lead. It was always within one score. The biggest lead of the night was 8 points. Dwenger led 29-21, and then Roncalli tied it at 29. The Saints then got that fake field goal for the touchdown. That was as much drama as we've seen in a state championship game in a long time. I mean, it was awesome. Rick Longsworth saying that you're still dressed for the snow. You've got the stocking cap. You must be like really having internet issues, Adam. You're frozen in time. Um, I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna knock you out and see if we can somehow get you back. I'm gonna try this because you became the human mannequin there for a minute, and let's see if we've got you back. Well, I see movement. I think maybe
Yeah, my connection's pretty bad, Brett.
is it the snow?
I'm having some bad Wi-Fi over here. I have no idea. Rick said I'm still dressed for the snow. Yeah, I'm back in my office room back here. It gets a little chilly back here. I've got my blanket too.
Tell Rick you're climbing the
I got
roof
my
to go
sports
clean
blanket,
things off
my
and try to get
basketball
back.
blanket.
Oh, you've got a blanket? What's the deal? Oh my gosh! Just don't suck your thumb on the stream. All right,
Yeah,
Colts
hey, I think
today.
my Wi-Fi is. I'm gonna mess with my.
Okay.
I'm gonna mess with my Wi-Fi.
All right.
I might have to
I'll
dip
try.
out.
Let me
But
let me
it's
get
too bad.
you out of here for a minute, and we'll let you mess around. And when you come back, then we'll have you jump back in. So we'll let you play with that a little bit, and just let me know when you're ready to try to rejoin. But anyway, yeah, I don't know what's going on with Wi-Fi. Great to have modern technology. Hey, appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Let's talk Indianapolis Colts and let's get your comments and thoughts on the Colts. Where is the season going? Is this still a playoff team, or is that position now in jeopardy? All of a sudden they lose 3 out of 4 games, and you got to start to wonder, uh, what the path is from here. Are they on a road that still has a tangent, or are they on a direct path to failure? Um, but but we'll have to get your thoughts on it. Give us your comments, whether you're watching us on YouTube, on X, or on Facebook. And by the way, If you do get over to YouTube, we would love to have you on YouTube, because if you are on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button that you can see right there. Make sure you click that and become a subscriber to our channel, because we go live about every Friday or every Sunday. We talk about local sports, Fort Wayne sports, Indiana sports, regional sports, things like the Chicago Bears being the top seed now in the NFC. Who saw that coming? The Chicago Bears, by virtue of Carolina's win against the Los Angeles Rams, the Chicago Bears are the top seed. If it ended today, they would have the number one seed in the NFC. How crazy is this? I mean, at one point we thought it was going to be the Colts. Now the Colts have kind of taken a step or two backwards, and the Bears just keep winning. And so the Bears, with that win over Philadelphia, they put themselves in a position where now they are the number one seed in the NFC. It is a crazy universe we live in right now. All right, so let's talk about the Colts. Two big things for the Colts today. Number one, we've got to talk about the bogus pass interference call against Kenny Moore. Doesn't matter what universe you're living in, that is not pass interference. It was about as bad as what we saw yesterday against Bishop Dwenger in the end zone. We watched the replay. There were three different receivers on routes on that half of the field for Roncalli. They called pass interference, and not one of the three receivers was really even touched. I mean, and we had the same thing today with the Indianapolis Colts. Must be something about that field, but that was just an absolutely terrible call that should not happen in an NFL game, especially an NFL game between a divisional opponents that are competing for the top spot in the division. It could affect the playoffs. It could affect playoff seeding. That was too big of a call at a too important time of the game for an NFL official to absolutely blow it. And they absolutely blew that call. I mean, Houston fans have to admit that was a blown call. There was no interference. The announcers, I mean, J.J. Watt, for crying out loud, he played for Houston, and even he had to admit that looked like a fairly insignificant play and wasn't really a DPI. So there was that. There was also the call where Jonathan Taylor looked like he got grabbed by the face mask. Now, to me, there's the flat palm that can go up on a face mask. You can get up and do this and get, around somebody's face mask. But if you do this and the fingers catch any part of that face mask, to me, that is a penalty. If they don't give it a full tug and twist the head, then it's a 5-yard penalty. But if they give it a tug, it's 15 yards. I don't think this was a 15-yarder, but I sure think that there was enough of a grip on the actual face mask that it should have been a 5-yard penalty, and it didn't get called. And so I just felt like almost every call that was blown or that I didn't think was right, and I don't always feel this way. I'm not somebody that sees things only through rose-colored glasses where every call goes a certain way. I'm not one of those guys. I usually can kind of tell if an official's just bad or having a bad day, or if this appears to be very one-sided and it's starting to influence the outcome of the game. And I thought some of the calls influenced the outcome of the game with the Colts. Now, the Colts didn't do themselves any favors, because you don't want to be in a position where an official can make that type of call against you and make it mean something in the outcome of the game. And the Colts had opportunities. I mean, they did not play a great football game. They were not perfect either. And so you can't blame the game on the officials, but you also expect a certain standard, not only from your team and from the players, from the coaches, but you expect a certain standard in the highest level of football to be established by the officials. And today they fell short. They weren't good, and the mistakes that they made seemed to always be calls that were going against the Indianapolis Colts. And they were monumental in this game. I mean, that pass interference led directly to a Houston touchdown that turned out to be the difference in the football game. So, yeah, it was very important. Now, another thing that's pretty important is extra points. Those just have to be a given. You can't have missed extra points, and it seems like the Colts are having a missed extra point almost every game, and that's when it's time to find a new kicker. Okay, I mean, that's the job. And it may sound rather harsh to say that you just have to find a new kicker because he missed an extra point, but that's the job you have. I mean, that's a fundamental part of the job is to kick the extra point, make some field goals, a high percentage of them, and be reliable up to a certain distance. And right now, Badgley missing extra points. And today it was very costly because late in the game, when the Colts have the football, they're down 4. They should have been down 3. They should have been able to play for a field goal to get the game tied. Instead, they were forced to try to get a touchdown on the final drive and end up turning it over on downs. Um, just not a good day for the Colts. And I guess the question, Daniel Jones and the injury, how impactful do you think that was? I certainly think it was a different Daniel Jones, but I've also seen this Daniel Jones before when he was healthy. I've seen this Daniel Jones when he was playing for the New York Giants, and he's the Daniel Jones that kind of got pushed out of town. But he didn't get any help from receivers. Josh Downs had 2 balls right in his hands, and he dropped both of them. I thought Alec Pierce was fantastic. And will be honest, I was not a Alec Pierce fan. I was fine with the Colts moving on from Alec Pierce at the end of the season. But now I'm like, better keep Alec Pierce around for a while. I mean, he's that vertical threat that is so key in the NFL. You always have to have that guy that can stretch the defense and go deep. And the way he can go down and get 50-50 balls 40 yards down the field is just unbelievable. He's running great routes. He's become a reliable hands guy. And for the first 2 or 3 years, he was not a hands guy. He had drops. He had some drops on deep balls. But now, all of a sudden, I think he's too important for the Colts to move on from. And I think you've got to figure out a way to include Alec Pierce in your future plans. And yes, he's probably going to get a pretty significant contract. Now, how do you judge what an Alec Pierce is worth? Well, you're probably going to look at guys like Cincinnati, where they have a really good number 2 receiver. Or maybe you look at the Rams and see what does a number 2 receiver, if you've got 2 really good receivers on the outside with Pittman and Pierce, if one is making X amount, what does the other one get paid? How much money do you put into that position group? And what is a number 2 guy on the outside? What is he getting paid? But he's earned his contract. He's been really good for the Colts. And unfortunately, not enough Alec Pierce today. Michael Pittman seemed to be kind of a no-show. Didn't have a whole lot of play today. They had a couple of completions to Tyler Warren, a couple of drops for Josh Downs, and Jonathan Taylor. Are they giving him the ball enough? You know, the Colts, what they were doing early is they were building leads against teams, and then it was just a steady diet of Jonathan Taylor, and they wore teams down as you went into the 4th quarter. They're not able to do that because they're playing from behind almost the entire game now. And this is the same story with this defense that we saw the last 2-3 years. And it's one of my real frustrations with the Colts is it seems like the defense can step up every time the offense hasn't scored, or if you're in a 1-score game and they can keep you in the game, they seem to always get stops. But as soon as the Colts score and get a lead, the very next drive, you don't have a shutdown defense. Have you ever noticed how many times it seems like the Colts in the last few years get points and then the subsequent drive by the opponent ends up resulting in some kind of points the other way? And the defense just gives up chunk after chunk after chunk. And that's the way I felt today. It's like the Colts can never shut the door. When they finally do make the comeback, then all of a sudden Houston just responds by going down the field and getting a score of their own. And saw that again today. But no, it's kind of weird seeing Lucas Oil Stadium after just being there last night. But no, anyway, give us your thoughts on the Colts. Love to hear what you've got to say. Of course, you can comment. Make sure too you subscribe. Always like. Give us those thumbs up. We need to get those thumbs up and let YouTube know and count them. And share the videos. If you can share it, it's even more powerful. So we hope you can share it to let people know that the Sports Rush is still around. We're still talking Fort Wayne sports. We're the only place that covers in-depth Fort Wayne sports, and that I think is important to a lot of you. And I know we've got a pretty good group joining us right now on all of our different channels. Coming up on the show in just a couple of minutes, we're going to be joined by Shannon Griffith, the coach. Of course, he is in depth with IU football. He was at the IU Purdue game, the Old Oak and Bucket game in West Lafayette on Friday night. Now you've got the Big Ten championship. It's the one we've anticipated for probably 6 or 7 weeks now with the Indiana Hoosiers and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Number 1 versus number 2. And are both teams, barring a complete blowout, either way, are both teams safely in the top 4 of the college football playoff. I would hate to see, because these two teams happen to be in the same conference and they have to go against each other and someone has to win and someone has to lose, that the stakes of that game are much more than just a conference championship or not a conference championship, that the stakes all of a sudden become a top 4 or a 5th or 6th seed. I don't like that idea. And I'm trying to get a quick look. Let's see, some of the early lines on conference championships, I think, is what I'm getting from Mr. Vegas. Texas Tech, 13-point favorite. Western Michigan is a 3-point favorite. Georgia, 1.5. Virginia, a 3-point favorite. And it looks like Ohio State opens up at 5.5. Yeah, that's probably about what I would have expected. I'd have probably said 3.5 to 4.5, somewhere in that range. I think they're at least a field goal, but not a full touchdown. So that puts them right in the range at 5.5. I mean, Ohio State's going to be favored. They've got the win streak. They've got the number 1 ranking. They're going to be the favorite against Indiana. It's not an Indiana home game, even though it's being played at Lucas Oil Stadium. It's not like the Hoosiers have had extra games there that Ohio State hasn't. So, in fact, Ohio State's played there more than Indiana. I saw the clip today, by the way, of Curt Cignetti, his first year when he got hired. Shortly after being hired, he made the trip into Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship game and was on the set with the Big Ten network. They asked him what he was doing there. He said, well, I thought maybe I should come and check it out, being that we're going to play in this game next year. And everybody got a good laugh on set. He was only 1 year off. He didn't play in it last year, which would have been the following year, but he's going this year. And at the time when he said that, I mean, that was nothing but complete sarcasm. I mean, that was a joke that Indiana is going to play in the Big Ten championship game in a conference that's got Michigan and Penn State and Oregon and USC. Yeah, Indiana is going to be playing in the Big Ten championship game. But Ryan's saying that he'd be shocked if not both in the top 4. I mean, that's going to be the question. Does the loser, let's say it's not a blowout. When I say not a blowout, let's say it's 10 points or less. Okay? If it's 10 points or less in the Big Ten championship game, do both teams finish in the top 4? Now, Ohio State has extra margin of error because They're starting at number 1. Indiana's at number 2. They wouldn't have to slip as far to get outside the top 4. But it may matter who wins. Like if Ohio State's a 5.5 point favorite and they beat Indiana by a touchdown, that's pretty much status quo. I mean, why would they fall from number 2? If they fall by the amount that Vegas said Ohio State is already better than them, and Ohio State's number 1, they're number 2, and number 1 beats number 2, and they beat them by a margin that was consistent with the Vegas line, I don't see why you bump Indiana down at all. Now they will if they lose. They'll knock them down to at least number 3. I don't think there's any way. There is no way that I see it that Ohio State and Indiana play each other and they come out of it number 1 and number 2. In other words, if Indiana wins a squeaker, I don't think Indiana's 1 and Ohio State's 2. I mean, it's possible, but I think there's going to be somebody who wins a conference championship game that slides up into number 2. We'll see. But anyway, no, we love your comments. And while we're talking about all this college football playoff talk and Indiana, Ohio State, and what to expect out of this Big Ten championship game, of course, a guy who has been following it with Hoosier Tailgate, he is always on top of it, even was at the game with Indiana Purdue on Friday night. Joins us now. It's Shannon Griffith. Coach, haven't seen enough of you this weekend. Thought I'd get you on the show.
Yeah, I've been dozing off here. A little tired from this weekend.
Yeah, kind of a hectic weekend with going to IU Purdue and then turning around and having the high school game and having to drive through some
snow.
And then full disclosure, we both ended up staying down in Indy last night.
Us old men can't hack it anymore.
No, a couple people from Dwenger said it took them 4 hours to get home. I said my heart would not have been ticking after 4 hours of driving through that. I was white knuckling it all the way down the road, and we were all going. It wasn't just me. The whole flow of traffic was going about 30 miles per hour, and that was the interstate.
Yeah, I kind of was thinking about that on the drive home. I was like, I wonder how long that drive took last night. And I said, I bet it took at least 4.
Yep, 4 hours.
Wow.
So that would be, if you figure it out, that's averaging about 30 miles per hour for the trip home.
Yeah, exactly.
120-mile trip, 4-hour trip, 30 miles per hour. We saw a heck of a game, by the way, before we talk IU and Purdue and everything. We saw a heck of a game yesterday. That was a lot of fun. It's always nice when the team you're there to cover ends up also claiming the championship. That just adds a little cherry on top. But just a fun game to analyze, a good battle between two heavyweights, punch, counter punch, and then ultimately a ballsy call. We can say that. It was a ballsy call going for the fake, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah, and we were, I think, reminiscing a little bit earlier today about how that call kind of made the entire ball game up to that point obsolete because it was such a great call at the right time that nobody would have thought they were going to do that. I mean, it wasn't even the foresight of my mind that they would fake it, just because we knew Wynn had the leg to kick it from there if he got a good flush kick on it. And the one he had tried earlier, of course, it was short, but it was more, he didn't get the full foot into it. So, but thinking that they were going to fake it there, I would have said you're crazy. I think they'll let that kid decide it. But hey, they saw something like we talked about, and they allowed the kids to execute it, and give the kids credit. They executed. I mean, that's not an easy thing to execute, even for a kid like Wynn, who doesn't sit back and throw passes during practice. I mean,
that was evident.
Yeah, Garrett. If you saw him throwing,
all you have to do is get it to the guy. You don't get extra points because it's a pretty pass.
No, right? Yeah. Well, it'll be a spiral 5 years from now when he talks about it and sets it up and sitting around the campfire. But it doesn't matter what it looks like as long as it gets there. And it got there, and it was like I said, it was just almost as if it was going in slow motion as well because of just how long the play took to develop because they were running it back towards the longest side of the field. So it took a long while before
Yeah.
he even really got to throw the ball. So, yeah, it was just a great game all the way around. I mean, that's a
It was
game
a
you don't.
little cat and mouse play because once
Mhm.
Wynn got the direct snap and then immediately rolled out to the left, he got in open space outside
Mhm.
the tackles. I mean, there was really nobody out
No.
there. One defender, and you had Shefferly trying to set a lead block. But when the defender broke away from Shefferly and started to head toward Wynn, Wynn had the foresight to be able to get that ball tossed up to Shefferly, lobbed it over the defender so it didn't get picked off. That's all it's about. Just get it to the guy,
Right.
make it a catchable ball. And Shefferly made the catch, took off, and to his credit too, I think he was hit first. He was popped about the 10-yard line and just bounced off a guy.
Yeah, he
And
broke at
then a
least
couple of
2.
arm tackles
Yeah.
inside the 5, and he was just determined he was not going to be stopped short of that goal line, and he took it 37 yards for the touchdown.
Yeah, it was kind of like backyard football. I mean, that's kind of what it came down to. I mean, it was nothing more than, go play and like you drew it up in the backyard, and it's kind of how it developed and ultimately how it kind of it got out of a Wynn's hands and Shefferly's hands, and like you said, he broke a couple tackles, and that was the call of the game. But there was so many calls in that game, penalties and things like that, that it could have really turned at any point. And each team found a way to overcome some monumental errors and leads and things of that nature. It made it a great state championship game.
And speaking of having to overcome adversity, a pass interference call that went against Bishop Dwenger, and we don't want to dwell on the officials because we want to encourage more people to become officials.
Mhm.
We don't want to scare you out of the profession because we're going to talk about you when you miss a call in a state championship. But it happens.
It does.
And we watched the play multiple times on replay, and we do not see a pass interference on that play. And Dwenger, to their credit, they didn't dwell over the call. They didn't cause a big fuss. They just stepped up and said, "Okay, we've got one more time. We've got to stop them." And and then and then we thought it
Yeah,
was one more time
there
because
was
with
one.
4 seconds left, they ended up having to stop them twice because
Yeah,
of the quick trigger on the clock. They ran a pass play that only took 3 seconds, and so they still had 1 second to run one more play to the end zone. And the Saints on a ricochet picked it off. But that's a team that was just determined they were going to get the job done, and they weren't going to let fate get in their way or whatever it might be. Uh, the cards were being stacked against them, and they still overcame. I mean,
yeah.
what a job by a team that I don't think any of us looked at this team in the preseason and thought this is the team that's got the chance to go down and claim a state championship.
I think we thought their defense was a state championship caliber of a defense because how good they had been a year ago, because they were all basically back. I think the biggest question mark was can they score enough points to beat teams when a game like yesterday occurred? Were they going to be a team that could put 36 points on the board and do it in a fashion that relied on Jordan to be the key focal point from A to Z in terms of making plays and making the right decisions. And he had the type of game that you like to see a kid in his last game have. I mean, that was a pretty big time performance by Jordan in that respect because of he didn't throw it that many times in all year in a game. It may have taken him 3 games to accumulate that many passes, but he went out and did what he had to do. And, we talked about his leadership and how well he's, liked amongst his teammates and Bishop Dwenger as a whole. And, he kind of put the team on his back on the offensive side and went out and made some plays. And that was the difference.
I know before we talk IU that you're a big Comet fan, and the Comets are up 4-1
Yeah, they're a big
over
one today.
Toledo. They're having their own little fish fry out at the
That's right.
Coliseum.
Yeah.
4-1. I think they may have just started the third period. I don't know. It's somewhere in that.
Yeah, I think you're correct. It was just getting ready to go. Because the last time I glanced at it was about 3-1. So they have actually put a couple more on the board. So
Yeah, it's 4-1, right? 4-1 as far as I can
yeah.
see.
Well,
Just looked it up. All right, let's talk IU football. First of all, let's talk about the game against Purdue.
mhm. Yeah.
And see, did we see more of IU or more of Purdue? Because this was a mismatch of monumental proportions as the game progressed. And when you look at the final stats, IU running the ball for 355 yards, 548 total yards. Purdue just 44 yards on the ground, 282 total yards. I mean, this was a good old fashioned butt kicking, and I guess the question is, did Purdue decide it was golf season or it was whatever it might be? You don't. I guess it's not golf season in
Right.
West Lafayette in the end of November, but to me it looked like, okay, a team that lost interest and just wanted the season to be over
Hmm. Yeah.
versus a team that was playing to earn some style points and to perfect some things that they want to take into the next week. And it ultimately on the scoreboard resulted in a real one-sided game.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty fair. I don't think, yeah, I think in those type of games when you get two teams that are at opposite ends of the spectrum and to that degree, the thing that Indiana couldn't do was give Purdue any type of hope in that game, because had they, gone in there and putzed around and gave Purdue some hope, then all of a sudden it's a dogfight. You never know what can happen. But Purdue kind of showed what Purdue had done all year. Their defense was just worn down, and they just didn't have an offense at Purdue this year that could sustain anything. And that probably put too much pressure on the defense being on the field too much. And then Indiana, found a way to run the football. Mendoza was not on his quote unquote A game for the better part of a quarter and a half. And Purdue actually dropped like 3 picks that they could have had early on in that game.
Do we write that off to a cold weather game for Mendoza? You and I know, have talked about
yeah,
this.
yeah. Again, I think there's some things to that. Also having a bye week too, and getting away from it a little bit, because I think Signetti gave the team itself a complete week off. I mean, I don't think they did anything as it pertained to football until the latter part of last week, because they were so beat up and needed time to just focus on regaining some of their strength and things of that nature, that he gave them the week off. And I think in some respects that may had an effect on him, as well as the weather and things like this. But to me, he was just trying to do too much. He was trying to make throws that he had no business trying to make, because there was other open receivers within his progression. And I just think that it was one of those things that they wanted the win so bad to finish 12-0, that maybe that pressing to get out in front and not give Purdue any hope kind of took over too much, as opposed to just going out and letting the game come to them. And once it did, I mean, you talked about Indiana rushing for over 300 yards. I think that's the 6th time this year that they've rushed for over 300 yards in a game all year long. That was the 10th game out of 12 that they had scored points in the final 2 minutes of the first half, which is phenomenal. They're a plus 17 in turnover margin. That's the number one team. They're the number 1 ranked team in the turnover margin, and scored somewhere of around 100 more points off of turnovers. So when you take scoring before half and adding the fact that when they get the ball in a takeaway situation, they're putting points on the board, that's a tough team to beat that way. I mean, you can't, that's a hard thing to overcome, because they're finding ways to score and finding ways to create opportunities, extra possessions for them. And, Roman Hemby had his best game. Keelan Black had another great game. And then some of the younger guys got time there in that third quarter, and they showed what they could do. I mean, Alberto Mendoza, Fernando's brother, I think he's going to be primed and ready to just step into that role. And then some other kids that were able to step in that role and take over, had some great scores and big plays in a game that they got their opportunity. So it was a little bit of everything. Cold, last game of the year, Purdue not being where they wanted them to be, but Purdue is not as far off as everybody may think. They're closer than to being a formidable opponent in the Big Ten. It's a matter, can they find that quarterback? That's the thing. That's the differential, is the guys at the trigger.
Well, let's talk about two teams that found the quarterback for this season with Ohio State and Indiana. They're going to hook up in the Big Ten championship game. It's a game everybody has anticipated and talked about probably since the Oregon game for IU.
Yeah.
At that point, it was like, okay, now we're going to see, because Indiana doesn't have Ohio State on their schedule, but we're going to see them at least head to head when we get to the Big Ten championship, because that's where both teams put themselves. And you looked at the schedules with the 5 or 6 games that IU had remaining, and you felt pretty comfortable, although it was a trip to Penn State in there.
Yeah.
And you knew that would be a little bit of a challenge, but Indiana was going to be favored in all of the games. I guess first question is, where do you have the Heisman rankings? Mendoza has been considered the favorite over the past few weeks, but after a national TV performance like he had against Purdue,
yeah,
is he still the favorite? Is the game against head-to-head against Sayan for Ohio State, is that going to be something that influences the voters looking at one head-to-head meeting? Where do you have it right now, and how big of stakes are there in the individual matchup coming up Saturday?
I think it's going to be a part of probably the voters that get their vote in the debate on whether or not, Mendoza is the guy that can be the Heisman winner. I don't think you can discount Love out of Notre Dame and what he has done in his career. He's been a big part of what Notre Dame has become as an offense. So I think he's kind of coming in from the, out of the final term home, coming from the back of the pack and making a big rush for it. So it'll be interesting to see where they've got it this week. He's had the betting odds on favorite, Mendoza has, for about the last 4 weeks of the season. The Penn State game, it always seems like there's a game that a quarterback has that they have a chance to throw themselves ahead in a game in the Heisman race, especially on a national level. And
that wasn't even a whole game. That was just one play that I think went viral.
Yeah, right. Well, it was that drive. I mean, the whole drive, because they were second in forever because he got sacked on the first play, and then he methodically just drove him down the field like it was nothing, and then made the phenomenal throw and the catch, and of course Gus Johnson's call. And that in itself, I think, that's going to be hard to erase from people's minds, because there hasn't been anything close to that can, take that away from him. So is that enough? Yeah. And the other thing, don't forget, he had played out at Cal. So the people that are on the West Coast, especially those sports writers that covered him for the last few years at Cal, they know about him. Not every year does a, West Coast guy know about the guys from the Midwest and East and vice versa. Well, he's a guy that kind of translate from across all 50 states, because he's played in the West Coast, he's played in the Midwest. So a lot more people have name recognition with him. But I don't think you can discount Love. Sayan's had a remarkable career. That kid, throwing over 80% completions, and he's been phenomenal for Ohio State. So it could have a big bearing on Saturday. But if I had to say who's the long shot, if those two kind of take themselves out because no one separates himself, I think it would be Love from Notre Dame, because I think he's got some records there at Notre Dame that have held up for many a year. And, he was a big part of their push to being in the championship game a year ago against Ohio State. And
I'll tell you another guy who's making a late season push, and it's probably too little too late, but Diego Pavia.
Yeah. Yeah.
has really done some special things for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, he had a
And
great game against Tennessee, and that's their
yeah,
rival. So,
yeah,
and I think the thing with Diego is that kind of gets, again, that kind of maybe hurts him a little bit. They never got to be that national spotlight game where he could really overly show. And when they did, it was against Texas and they got beat. And so
yeah.
that kind of hurt him. But there's no question he's a dynamic player that can wow the country. I know Vanderbilt's pushing hard in their PR for him right now. Um, but yeah, that's a good call. I mean, really, if you look at it from that perspective, a kid that was so dynamic, and again, would they be where they're at without him? I mean, that's kind of like how I look at the Heisman. Is it's kind of like the MVP. You know, if you take that kid out of the lineup, do they do what they do?
Yeah.
You know, so that kind of tells me where some guys fit in this equation.
All right, so we've covered pretty much everything. I'd love to get an idea of all the matchups, but I'll let you do that on your little show. So, but I do want to ask the question I brought up earlier before I let you go, Griff. We got another guest that's standing by, and I want to get to him. But the question that we talked about and debated earlier was: are both these teams, barring a blowout, are they locks to be in the top four when the college football playoffs are announced?
No, I don't think. I think depending on how the game goes, if Indiana probably is at the biggest risk because you got Georgia on their heels. Now, what surprised me in the AP top 25, Oregon is at 4. They leaped over Texas Tech, I believe, which surprised me. So that may help Indiana in that sense because head to head trumps everything. So again, I think if Indiana plays it close, then I do think they get in. I know Ryan Day in the presser today, they had their Big Ten presser for the championship game, he said, irregardless of what happens in this game, that both Indiana and Ohio State deserve the first round bye based upon their seasons to date, and that the Big Ten championship was kind of the cherry on top extra game that should not hurt one team or the other, irregardless of what happens. But I just think they're looking for an excuse to drop Indiana. I mean, I just think there's enough narrative there that they're looking for that excuse. And if Indiana would lose handedly, they could drop them out of the top 4 and put them in the first round. And maybe they have a home game as a consolation for their season that they get a first round home game. So I don't think it matters much.
I think part of the problem, Griff, with Indiana is that Oregon game happened too long ago.
Yeah.
They were the favorite flavor for 2 or 3 weeks when they went on the road and beat Oregon. But now there's been so many games that have happened since and so many other narratives that all of a sudden you're starting to think, well, maybe I overreacted. And maybe, and so it leads us to real quick. Because I got a comment, and this will be it. I got to move on from you, Griff. But the comment asking about your thoughts about Notre Dame. How safe are they? Will they make it in? Especially if they have to go head to head against a spot with Alabama. Will Notre Dame get a spot over Alabama?
Good quote. I think Notre Dame's in. I just don't think you can discount their 10 games that they've rattled off, even though Miami beat them in that scenario. That was a long time ago. And then Miami lost to 2 teams they shouldn't have lost to. But I think Miami's in. I mean, I think Notre Dame is in. Now, whether or not they get a home game, that will be the question if they can move up enough. And this is what hurts Notre Dame without being in a conference. They don't get a conference championship game, and they're kind of in limbo until it all settles.
Griff, always appreciate you.
Yep,
I'll let you
no
get
problem.
some rest. Get some shut eye. I know you're worn out, but thanks so much, man.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
Yep, that is Coach Shannon Griffith joining us. And, we got a special thing happening. Christmas time is about trying to find those hard to find gifts. Those people that are difficult, they're sports fans, and you want to try to figure out what do you get a sports fan that they already have everything. Tickets, great. They go spend a day at a game, but you know what? That doesn't last. And I know something that does last, and we want to talk about it with our next guest. It's the holiday season. It's perfect time to talk card collecting. And so let's go ahead and bring in from Midwest Box Breaks. You see the logo, right? Oh, it's over. Wait a minute. I can backwards. Yeah, it's over here. There you go. Where is it at? There it is. Midwest Box Breaks. It's Ben's. It took. I wasted like 60 seconds of his time by trying to point out the logo. I am sorry. Ben, how are you, man?
Hey,
Ben
Brett, how's
Smith.
it going?
All right, Ben. So we're just talking about sports cards as gifts, like getting somebody involved in the hobby, somebody who maybe used to do it. They've talked about how they collected as a kid. They've just gotten away from it. This is a great way to kind of reintroduce them to the 21st century way of card collecting. But what's the best way to go about doing? I mean, is there a way to buy tokens for any of the breaks that you have? What's the best way to go about trying to involve somebody in a Christmas gift?
Well, the biggest issue is if you see something really cool out there, you have to decide if you need it first, and then you have to remind yourself that you're out there shopping for somebody else. And then it's funny too. I just helped a person on Twitter. I sold one of my Jerry Rice rookie cards so they could
Wow.
get something for their brother-in-law for Christmas. But normally I would send you to MidwestBoxBreaks.net where you can use the first-time customer code MBB for $5 off. You can use the search and filter features. We've got college football, college basketball, WNBA, baseball, Star Wars. We're slowly growing our Pokemon segment. We've pretty much got something for everybody. But then the other piece of it too are the local shows that are getting bigger and better here in the Fort Wayne area too. So.
Yep, and there's a big one coming up. I know on Saturday you're going to be heavily involved and represented at a show that's happening. Tell us about the show that comes up this Saturday.
So if you've ever heard or been to the legendary Shipshawana show that happens a couple times a year, and it's big. This is no joke, and I posted this in some of the LinkedIn stuff I posted to try to get some media coverage out there. If you're watching, friends and members of the media, it's become a destination for a lot of big time dealers and collectors who want to buy in bulk, who are looking for hard to find items and things like that. But the organizers, shout out Brad and Ryan, they have, if you remember the Black Friday show we had at the Field House not too long ago,
Yep.
and basically it was so big, the parking and the traffic and stuff became an issue. So we moved it up to the hangar in Auburn, which I'm told used to literally be a hangar. So anyway, it's a hangar up in Auburn, and it's Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, the 6th, from I believe it's 9 to 3. If you bring an unwrapped toy and donate it, you'll be entered to win. There's going to be a big drawing. I think it's over $5,000 in hobby-related prizes. So there'll be a ton of raffles pretty much consistently through the whole event. Food, drinks, there's concession stands, restrooms. I'm right up front. Our booth is right up front. We'll have 3 tables. Guys from my card community will be making the trip, weather permitting. But they put me close to the restroom and far away from the concession stand, which I think they did on purpose. But and like I've said before and posted on the socials, whether you're a casual collector getting back in it and you're just curious and you want to see what it's about, or I mean, you're a seasoned vet and you want to go in there and buy for yourself, buy for your booth, buy for your own show. This area has gotten to where about every weekend you can find a card show here in Fort Wayne, Huntington. Go over to Ohio if you want. Watch out for the Buckeye fans. But big show, 240 tables. As far as booths go, it's sold out, but this place will be packed, and you'll see some national social media coverage and attention. And I love it for the area because, you know, in our conversations, we've been trying to get some more attention on this area. But I love what the Shipshawana guys, Brad and Ryan, are put together. And if you've been to that show, don't want to make the trip, or you just want to check this out, it is definitely worth the trip. Just a few miles north of Fort Wayne. Again, brave the weather, be safe. I think by then we'll be okay. I think we're done, hopefully, for the week as far as weather goes. But a huge section, if you're Pokemon, there's going to be a dedicated section of the floor space to that. But everything you could think of, I'm bringing Michael Jordan rookie and some other stuff, and anything from dollar boxes to cards worth 5 and 6 figures, and you name it, it's probably there. Supplies, if you like to open your own packs and boxes, hit our booth up at the front of the show. We're giving away some stuff and some deals for people that want to join the online marketplace right there. I'll cash in your coupon code right there, and you can walk away with a couple packs at a great price. And happy to help, even if you don't see anything at our booth and you just say, hey, how do I find this? I've had this sitting around. What's it worth? It's a free show, free admission. Pop in and check it out and ask away. And like always, we're a message or an email away if you've got any questions about anything, really.
And that's a great thing. It's a no-risk show where if you're just curious about the hobby, or you just want to see what's out there, what's the latest product, who makes the cards, what's the best way to buy them and get them. This would be the perfect time to have all of your questions answered, talk to the people one-on-one. Who knows? Maybe you'll run into Livy Dunn looking for a Paul Skeens card up there in Auburn.
You may see some famous people on different levels. You'll see, especially if you follow the hobby on social media, you'll see some familiar faces and accounts and things like that. You never know. I saw Jalen Smith come into the Fort Wayne show we had last year. I think he was there just working out and doing some other stuff, but it still counts. I handed him some free cards I had of his stuff. But yeah, and like I said, there's no risk. And people will come up and say, hey, I'm looking for this. If I don't have it, we'll help you find it somewhere on the show floor. Again, bring your young kids. I'll have free stuff for kids if you want to grab some stuff from us too. And kids of all ages from, 1 to 101, I guess. So anybody has any questions, again, we're here all the time through social channels and email and stuff. So, and I appreciate everything you do too, Brett, to support us and get the word out.
By the way, we'll give you all those social channels again before we wrap it up. But before we get there, want to talk about a special thing you've got going on Friday night.
So on the Friday, we're actually doing a trade night it's called the Sport Stop in Angola, which is a little farther north than Auburn. But if you've ever checked out my friend Mitch's card shop up there in Angola, there's going to be, I think it's pizza and beverages and food, and he'll have a bunch of open tables, and similar to any other trade night at the card shows, big and small. You can bring your cards and set up at a table and swap and make deals, and I'll do some live streaming from there too, and there'll be some freebies and some other cool stuff. So, and that'll be the night before. I don't have the times in front of me, but if you follow, again, it's the Sports Stop on Facebook. I can help you with that link too, and that'll be Friday night, the night before in Angola. And within the last year or so, they've moved locations. So I think it's, if you know where you're at in Angola, you know where it is already. But I can help you with the link to that too. So a lot of fun. And again, we're continuing to grow the sports card hobby here in Fort Wayne.
And I know, you talked about it. I think so many of us that are in the older generation, the baby boomers and older folks probably remember that card collecting was primarily baseball cards. That, when we were younger, it was if you were collecting cards, you were probably collecting baseball cards. And then the generation of our kids, Pokemon became big. You mentioned it's still out there and it's still thriving. And there's multiple releases of product. As far as sports and product releases, what's going on right now in the hobby? What's next? What's the calendar look like?
So recently, Topps and Fanatics picked up the NBA license again from Panini, who had it before. So now Topps is back after, I think it was 15 or 16 years off. So they released their flagship, which is their main product. Well, the Chrome version of that comes out in, I'll say, about 2 or 3 weeks. So we're looking at Topps Chrome Basketball. Topps Chrome Baseball Update comes out in 2 weeks on the 10th. on Wednesday, and I've got these posted on our site now, is a product called Tops Allen and Ginter, which is kind of a fun product because it's got celebrities. Sometimes it's got goofy non-sports related items, like they might have birds, again, celebrities, athletes from other sports. One year it had different types of airplanes in it. And, it was funny because the one year we figured out that if you put all the cards together, the airplanes, it made a great big, what's it called? A panorama view of, yeah. And it was, we've seen all kinds of crazy stuff in that. One year I pulled a dinosaur tooth. I believe that was out of Allen and Ginter. I think that was the product. But you'll see, again, movie stars, people from other walks of life and stuff in that product too. And then we've got Bowman's Best U college football. So we just got done talking about college. And I'll have that Friday. And you can hit Mendoza and IU. You can hit Love out of Notre Dame, all the other Heisman hopefuls, and even.
Will you have that at the show?
What's that?
Will that be at the show, or is that strictly breaks online?
No, I'll have some of it at the show. I'll have breaks. I actually got a break posted for it for Friday. So a crazy day, crazy weekend. I'll rip some of that Friday afternoon. Then we'll haul Bud up to the trade night, and then I'll probably have some at the show too. But it's got all the college guys currently in it, and it's Bowman's Best University, and there are autographs in it. This product has 4 autographs in a box, so you never know what you might hit. So,
wow. Well, it's always fun to talk to you. Go ahead and give us all the best ways for people to find you. I know you're a little bit of everywhere, but it all starts with MidwestBoxBreaks.net. That's kind of the hub, and then you've got all the socials attached to that. Where are all your socials located?
So on the .net, you can send me a direct message on there. The account there is Midwest Sports Cards, but also Facebook is just at Midwest Box Breaks. Twitter is at Midwest Box Break, or Twitter X, whatever you would call it, at Midwest Box Break with no S on the end of it. Instagram is Midwest Box Breaks _Ben. For whatever reason, just Midwest Box Breaks wasn't available at the time. And again, I mentioned we're on LinkedIn, and did I forget any other platforms? Instagram. It seems like there's a new one every day.
You're not doing TikTok. Are you doing TikTok?
I have a TikTok account. I'm not great on it. I have a friend that's helping me out with it. He's a little younger than me, and we'll post some videos and stuff up there. And I'm learning. I mean, it's, when we were younger, you had 3 TV stations, and that was, you basically wrote a message in a bottle.
The dancing card guy on TikTok, Ben Smith.
Yeah, it's every day there's a new platform. We're on Blue Sky, and there's one called Mantle. They're doing some cool things there too.
I think with AI we could make a dancer out of you. You could be the dancing card guy on TikTok.
I don't know where I stand with AI, because I've seen times where it's helpful, but then I'm a huge Elvis fan. I've seen Elvis in Star Trek. I've seen Elvis as James Bond. I've seen Elvis as Superman. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
All right. Well, good luck with the card shows. Again, Saturday, 9 to 3 at the hangar up in Auburn. Now, is that across 69 from the old Cruzy auction park? Is that where it's at?
I believe I had a flyer here. Hang on one second. That's the joys of live programming. And then remember, bring an unwrapped toy if you want entered into the giveaway. So we're trying to gather up some toys for the holiday season for some great kids. It's the Cruzy Plaza, 5634 Opportunity Boulevard.
Okay. So it is all part of the Cruzy family there.
Sure.
All right. I'm sure there'll be signs to get you there, and you'll see the crowds on Saturday. Don't miss it.
And then, be sure to mention that you heard about it here, and we'll send Brett Rump a care package.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, after 3 years, I might actually get something. Hey Ben, we appreciate you, man, and good luck with everything this week. Thanks so much for taking time to talk to us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yep, that is Ben Smith joining us from Midwest Box Breaks. Right there. Be sure to check it out. If you're collecting cards at all, he's the guy you want to know. The one thing is within the hobby, there's been, of course, news reports like anything else. You're always going to hear the nightmare stories. But then you have people like Ben that collects and works with people that are ethical. They back up the product. If you want to get into card collecting and do it the safe way with people you can trust, that's a guy that we just had on. That's a guy you can believe in. He really values the reputation and the ethics of the community. So just a really good guy, and he supports a lot of local sports. He all year long he was our presenting sponsor of our high school football coverage, and so we couldn't do things like the state championship game without the support of people like Ben in this community. So definitely want to thank him, and you want to get to that card show coming up next Saturday. All right, just a couple of quick updates. Mastodon women, they lost today at Bowling Green. I think the final was 56-53. Tough one there. Lane Kiffin is heading to LSU. If you did not hear that, he informed his team this morning that he was accepting the LSU job. I guess the final contract not signed, but at this point, it's a done deal. They've agreed to all the terms and everything, and it's just got to be a matter of getting a quick signature and a John Hancock on everything. So Lane Kiffin off to LSU. That means the Ole Miss job is now open. It's going to be taken over on an interim basis through the college football playoffs, should they be in it, and any bowl games or subsequent games they've got the rest of this season. It'll be taken over by their current defensive coordinator, who's been named the interim head coach. Florida is finalizing a deal to hire Tulane's coach. And finally, Oregon State has a new head coach with Fort Wayne ties. Jamarcus Shepard, 42 years old, was hired as the new coach of Oklahoma State, and he is a Northrop grad. Played his high school football at Northrop, graduated from Northrop. He has coached multiple places as an assistant, including under Jeff Brom at Purdue. And Jamarcus Shepard is now the head coach at Oregon State. So big congrats to a Fort Wayne guy. That's awesome to hear. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Big thanks to all of you that watched. And don't forget, you've got to click that subscribe button. And also, just give us a thumbs up. If you stuck it out with us, then we're worth at least a thumbs up. It costs nothing. Just click the thumbs up button. And of course, share the channel with everybody that you know, so that people that have gotten lost without the Sports Rush on radio, they can come and find us, and they can join in on our Sunday night little expedition. Big thanks to Shannon Griffith for joining us. Big thanks to Ben Smith from Midwest Box Breaks. I am Brett Rump. Have a great week. This has been the Sports Rush with Brett Rump, and we will talk to you again next Sunday.